We're excited to introduce to you our new innovative technology called the Proprio Reactive Balance System. There's different types of balance systems out there, and there's different types of balance. You have static balance, anticipatory balance, and reactive balance. Well, static balance is just standing on the ground or doing a single leg without the ground moving. Whereas anticipatory balance is more of, you know where the environment is changing, you can pre-position your body to be able to respond to those changes or to that environment. That's similar to stepping off a curb. You pre-position your body to step down, and or if you're walking up or down or along a hill. The last type of balance is reactive balance. Reactive balance is balance that you can't anticipate. You don't pre-position your body, and it's your ability to respond to a sudden change in environment is really what reactive balance is. Through this series of videos, we're going to be showing you different types of applications of reactive balance on our Proprio reactive balance system and the different applications for the system as a whole. I now want to talk to you a little bit about the movements of the platform. Unlike other types of balance devices, the movements of the platform are completely controlled by the therapist or the athletic trainer, not by the patient. Therefore, you can control the movements in any direction, speed, and degrees. Showing an example of different movements, this is the anterior-posterior movement. This one's going quite fast at 10 degrees per second, and it's going anterior and posterior at 6 degrees per second. This next movement is the lateral movement. Of course, we have it going at 15 seconds at speed 1 and 8 degrees towards the left and then back to 0. As you can see, we can control each quadrant independently, so if you want to do some inversion or eversion of the ankles or just focus on one side, you can actually control the degrees that it's going in each direction. This is a predictable type motion, counterclock or clockwise, going speed 6 at 1 degrees. Notice how nice and smooth the movements are. There's no abrupt stops or no jerkiness, so you can put an early rehab patient on these types of training protocols and be able to safely put them through some range of motion strengthening type exercises. This last protocol is actually showing our random, going at speed 3 and at 8 degrees. As you can see, again, the patient has no idea where it's going. This is what we call true reactive balance. The only way that they know where it's going is their nerves in their feet actually telling their brain exactly where that movement's occurring, and then their brain giving the appropriate motor response in order to react to that movement. Now, of course, I showed you some of the movements of the platform when it's going much slower, but I wanted to show you how aggressive the equipment can get, because the platform or this Proprio reactive balance system can be utilized for geriatric patients or elderly patients, and it can be used for professional athletes, being able to challenge professional athletes at high levels, yet still reduce the speed and degrees safe enough for your geriatric patients. Again, if you notice, we're doing inversion towards the B direction at 25 degrees. The platform can go anywhere from 0 to 25 degrees and anywhere from speeds 1 to 10, which is up to 120 degrees per second. If you notice also, these first 4 movements we call anticipatory type movements. Even though the platform is moving, the patient can anticipate what the next movement is because it's repetitive type movements. The difference being on this last stage, or the 5th stage of this demo, is where we talk about reactive balance, where they do not know which direction it's going. Now, when we start this last stage, this is typically where I tell the patient to hold on tight. The Proprio reactive balance system comes with a number of different pre-designed protocols. First protocol I want to talk to you about is what we call the strengthening protocols. which goes through repetitive type movements at different speeds and degrees. The key to strengthening protocols is actually slowing it down to make it more difficult for the patient. So the earlier protocols, which go from 1 through 12, the easier protocols go a little bit faster, and as they progress through the protocols, they'll slow down. Likewise with the degrees of tilt. The degrees of tilt start small with the easier protocols, and as they progress, they get larger. So we'll run through a couple protocols here and let you see how they run. As I mentioned earlier, the easier protocols go at a little quicker speed and less degrees. This is our strengthening exercise number 1. It's going 8 degrees at a speed of 4 degrees per second. Of course, any of these protocols can be modified to be even slower, but this is our strengthening 1. As I had mentioned earlier, the Proprio reactive balance system strengthening protocols actually vary from strength protocol 1 all the way up to strength protocol 12. This is strength protocol 1, which goes at a speed of 4 degrees per second and 8 degrees of tilt. As I've mentioned, the faster the platform moves, the easier it is for the patient because they don't have to hold position. Okay. As I've mentioned also, as they progressively get more difficult, we increase the degrees at which the platform tilts. It goes through a 1 minute lateral movement. It takes a 15-second pause, which is what we're in now. And then it starts up with a clockwise movement. This one in particular, again, is speed 4, but it's going at 6 degrees. This strengthening protocol is actually strength protocol 7. As you can see, it's going at a little bit slower speed. Right now it's going at speed 2, and we're tilting at 15 degrees. So this is kind of a medium type level. It can be very difficult though. And this last strengthening protocol is strength protocol number 12. As you can see, we're going at speed 1, 25 degrees per second. Very challenging, but the key to actually utilizing or doing these strengthening protocols is to make sure that you keep your body square, that you're evenly distributed on both legs, and that your center of mass stays in the middle. There's no twisting or turning, no rotation, no lateral flexion of the hips. We'll optimize the benefit that they're going to get out of this. We utilize our biofeedback capabilities to assure that the patient can maintain this good posture during these strengthening protocols. The next pre-designed protocols I'd like to discuss is our somatosensory training protocols. Of course, somatosensory is one of the 3 systems utilized to maintain balance, and we try to isolate these somatosensory system in these protocols by reducing the amount of tilt of the platform and increasing the speed of the platform. There's 5 different levels of somatosensory training, and this is probably the easiest training right here. This is somatosensory 1, where it's just going at speed 2 and 1 degrees. So for your geriatric patients, you can do some somatosensory training at these fine levels. And I'd also like to show you the higher levels of somatosensory training. This is actually speed 8 at 3 degrees. So if we keep the speed below, or the degrees below 3 degrees of tilt, we can actually minimize the vestibular input that the body's getting. So in starting these protocols, we'll have them hold on to the handrails to start off with. When they start feeling comfortable enough, we'll have them let go of the handrails. And then once they feel comfortable enough, we'll take the vision away. So go ahead and close your eyes. It's substantially more difficult when you do take the vision away because most of your patients are going to be visually dependent. By eliminating the vision, reducing the amount of vestibular input, we're maximizing the input that the brain is receiving from somatosensory training, from somatosensory system, and we're up-training the somatosensory system. Another feature of the Proprio software is the biofeedback capabilities. At any time you can enable the biofeedback and the target will pop up on the screen that will correlate with the center of mass movement of your patient. So as the patient is going left to right, you can see the target go left to right, forward and backwards, up and down. We can also show rotation in degrees, left to right, the lateral flexion, and the flexion extension. If you notice when we go through these, the target will actually change colors. As it goes through past 2-inch movement, it'll turn yellow, which is the second line, and as it goes past the third line, it'll turn red. These parameters can be varied and changed to make more difficult or to make easier for the patient. Another feature of the biofeedback capabilities is the Chase the Dot. By enabling Chase the Dot, you can select the range at which you want the patient to be able to move their body in order to hit the dot, display the number of hits, and determine whether you want the dot to go back to the center after each. By enabling the biofeedback, a yellow dot will appear and the patient will start moving their body in order to hit those dots. This is a great postural control training type protocol and make sure that they use proper body kinematics to reach these different movements. If you notice, he still maintains his center of mass by twisting, rotating, and shifting his weight. For more information on the Proprio reactive balance systems, contact Paradynamics at 217-872-1530 or visit our website at www.paradynamics.com.